Now to the other side of the aisle, to Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu. Is she satisfied with the proposed deal? And I assume that, like Senator Sessions, you haven't seen all the details. But from what you know tonight, yes or no, you like it or not?
I haven't seen the details, Greta, but I'm leaning towards voting for it. I think it's very, very important to avoid default. It's not just held the government hostage, it's held every American, every family, and every business hostage, and we need to get past this crisis. So I want to commend the President, Harry Reid, Speaker Boehner, for working up to the last minute. It wasn't pretty. It was very tough. I wish we would have more time, as a senator from Alabama said, but it is what it is.
Then that invites me to say to you.
It is what it is, and I'm looking forward to the details tomorrow and hope we can get this done in the next 24 hours.
Well, then I look ahead. Let me ask you this, is that the continuing resolution for running the government ends September 30th. So you don't run up against the wire. Maybe you ought to do that one now, too.
Absolutely. We should start working on it right now. In fact, the appropriations process has started. My appropriations bill is ready to go. I'm pleased if we can work out some agreement with the House, we'll be ready to move forward on the Homeland Appropriations bill.
All right, the President said tonight that he talked about fair share tax breaks and deductions. And then I looked at the PowerPoint presentation that we've received, and it says that there won't be any tax increases. And I know that's a big thing for the Democrats. The Republicans have been fighting about it. Are taxes going up with this or not, do you think?
Well, I'm understanding, although I haven't seen the details, that tax increases are on the table, revenues are on the table, and it's important that they be, because the income coming into the government is at the lowest level since World War II. Now, people that pay high taxes don't want to believe that, but the fact of the matter is, because there's so many loopholes in our tax code, and because
3,300 according to the Simpson poll,
and there are
commission.
Some companies, Greta, that are paying 1% income tax, 6% income tax, and that's not fair. And so I'm glad that tax increases are on the table, or tax revenues, or raising revenues. Maybe we can lower rates for some middle-class families and small businesses. But that is on the table, I understand. Defense cuts are on the table. Discretionary cuts are on the table. But to solve this problem, you've got to raise revenues and cut spending.
Do you think that's going to, I mean, this is obviously a question probably for the other side of the aisle, but is that going to be, if taxes are on the table, because that seemed to be like a rather significant item for a number, certainly the freshman members of Congress, the Republicans, is that going to be a deal breaker?
I think that's going to be very tough for some members of the House, but actually I think the President fought hard for a balanced approach, which is some defense cuts, some discretionary cuts, and some revenue increases.
It's interesting. Speaker Boehner apparently on his call tonight said, was quoted saying, "We got 98% of what we wanted." The minority leader is on board. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader, but 98% of what we wanted. Do you think, is he right? Did the Republicans get 98% of what they wanted?
I don't know until you see the details, but what it seems like to me is that we've avoided the default. We're not going to have a two-step process. We're going to get through this for the next couple of, 24 months, which is important.
Which passed the election.
Past the election, but it's not just past the election. It's for 2 years. We don't want to engage in this kind of holding the economy hostage every 6 months. We can fight about closing the government. We can fight about appropriations. We most certainly shouldn't fight about holding the economy hostage.
In terms of the economy, I mean, if the economy were roaring, I suspect this would be less of a problem because there'd be more revenues going into it.
Absolutely.
And I think people would feel more optimistic that we're on the right path.
But the economy is too weak to be held hostage. That's why I so objected to the fight over this right now.
Does that mean that the February 09 stimulus bill has failed? I mean, if the economy is still weak 2.5 years later.
It hasn't worked as well. It has not worked as well as we had hoped, but it was better than doing nothing. And that's what I object to people that say we shouldn't have done it.
How do we know that?
Well, because we cut taxes, we put money in the pockets of every American, we extended the tax cuts for some time to provide certainty, and we stimulated the economy. You can see now.
We put $787 billion into it.
You can see now as the state governments are cutting back, teachers are being laid off, professors are being laid off. It's starting to weaken the economy in the states. So government spending at appropriate times when you've got a depression is important to do.
I'm not totally convinced. I mean, when I look at all the indicators like the unemployment, housing starts, all those, and I looked at the trend since February 9, I'm not convinced that the stimulus bill has worked. I know people had good intention, but I actually think that it has, it has failed us. And I know the argument is that we could have lost more, but I'm sort of unconvinced by that.
Well, the record maybe is not completely in, but I would always move to do something as opposed to nothing. It was balanced between tax cuts and additional spending. And again, we've got to be careful about pulling pulling too much money out of this economy. Businesses need that certainty. I'm glad the president's avoided the default tonight.
Well, Senator, thank you very much.
Thank
and of
you.
course, I know you'll take a look at the details, and there's much to be talked about. Thank you very much.